256 players drafted over the weekend to the NFL Draft. Let's also keep in mind that there were over 50 players on NFL rosters who were free agents this past season just from the previous year's class. So, not drafted, but still with some hope of getting to an NFL camp and signing with a football team. So we bring in Robert Whetsell of Cowboys Ride for free on the Oklahoma State platform on SB Nation. Hey, Robert.
Hey, Mark. Thanks again for having us.
Of course. Thank you so much. So let's talk about what your one prized guy there at Oklahoma State. So not a class of 5 or 6 guys getting drafted, but the one guy that did get drafted. Wow, I didn't know that he was this much of a prime commodity. I knew that he would be in the first 15 to 20 picks, but the Browns felt so highly about Justin Gilbert's playmaking ability that they traded up for him, snagged him at number 8.
Yeah, that it was sort of interesting to me because the knock on Gilbert has been his tackling, which, you know, in the NFL, especially where the NFL is starting to see a little more spread offense utilized, you know, tackling is a pretty high commodity for a cornerback. So he was getting knocked for his tackling, but his speed and his ball skills are top notch. I think the guy will grow. He's strong enough. You know, he'll improve. He's a good kid. He'll work hard. I will say this. You know, Oklahoma State only had 1 player drafted. That's 1 more than Texas had drafted. Just got to get that one in there.
Well, that was the stat that was flying all over the place. You had kids from Bloomsburg College and Lindenberg and all sorts of little institutions going to the NFL Draft.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was
first time since 1937.
OSU folks had a little fun with that on Twitter.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
So, no, I think it's a good pickup for the Browns. I don't think that's a crazy pick at number 8. You saw a lot of cornerback and safety action, you know, in that first round, and I think that's just a sign of what's going on. You know, the NFL, I heard Mike and Mike talking about it a couple mornings ago, that last week, that, you know, the NFL and the phases, the changes they go through depending on what, you know, the offensive side is starting to do and see success. Then you see the defense start to adapt. So I think, you know, what we saw in that first round especially was, you know, it was teams trying to adapt to what's going on offensively right now in the league.
All right, you've got a group of players there in Stillwater moving on to the NFL, but going the free agent route and with some hope of hanging around and making it with a team. Particular guy in Josh Stewart, one of the more prolific receivers in college football 2 years ago with 101 catches and 7 touchdowns, had some injuries, and the offense wasn't as geared toward the passing attack last season, caught 60 passes. So you got Josh Stewart signing with Tennessee, you got Daytawion Lowe, who made all sorts of tackles, one of your leading tacklers at safety, 39 consecutive starts over 3 seasons, very durable player, and Blake Jackson. So talk about what each one of them bring to the table and where they signed.
Well, I'll start with Stewart, and I'm sticking to my opinion that I think it was a mistake for him to come out. I didn't think that he did enough. You know, for a player to come out early, you know, you really should expect that player to be just really ultra dominant, you know, a la Justin Blackman. You know, somebody who just is dominant and changes the game, you know, whenever they want to type of player. And that was not Josh Stewart. You know, he's not the fastest guy out there. He's shifty. He's good in open space, decent hands. But I really didn't think that him coming out early was going to be a good thing. And I'm not surprised at all that he did not get drafted. Not surprised that he got picked up. You know, he has enough talent, but he's going to have a hard time because Tennessee also signed Eric Ward from Texas Tech, who personally I think was a better prospect. So, and he's at that inside receiver type position. So I think Stewart's going to have a hard time. He probably will find a home. He has enough talent. I think he'll probably find a home someplace. He may bounce around a couple of teams. I thought Cleveland. You know, I tweeted out that I thought Cleveland was becoming Dallas Cowboys North because Dallas has a number of OSU players now. Cleveland now took 3. We got Justin Gilbert, who they drafted 8, obviously. They picked up defensive tackle Calvin Barnett, who I I was a little surprised he didn't get drafted. He's the type of player who's big, dominant, beefy guy in the middle. Didn't get drafted. I thought maybe a late round, 6th, 7th round, he might get drafted, but he didn't. But I knew he would get picked up. It's not surprising at all he got picked up. I just don't know where this came from, but I'm flabbergasted that Blake Jackson got signed. And don't get me wrong, I like the guy. Had tremendous potential. Big, rangy fella. Tough to cover, physical. Made a number of good catches in the middle of the field 2 years ago, but last year barely got on the field for Oklahoma State. There was even a story that went around in the fall, in August, that he had to shave his head because he lost a bet amongst the wide receivers for dropping so many balls. So maybe I shouldn't be shocked that Cleveland picked him up, because they led the league in dropped passes. I think last year, 2 years ago, whatever, they're like top 5 in the league in dropped passes. And as we noted pre-show, that they've lost all their guys who used to drop passes previously, so they needed somebody else to drop passes for them. So
you want to lead the league in something, Robert.
You're right. So that signing to me is strictly based off of his size, and the ability to get into space and hard to cover. If he can't catch the ball, he's not going to stay around. There were you had Lowe. I think Lowe is a great pickup for the Eagles. As you mentioned, tremendous durability. Guy, 39 consecutive games played. Over 3 years that he was in the lineup, and he's a good guy. Hitter, doesn't mind contact. Has the size. Has some speed back there. I think that's a good pickup, and I think he'll find a home someplace, whether it's with the Eagles or not. And then again, we had Josh Stewart, not to be left out, offensive lineman Parker Graham, who signed with the Baltimore Ravens. Another guy who I think he'll find a home, whether it's with the Ravens or not. He's definitely good enough. He'll find a home. We've seen plenty of teams find players. Really good players out of this, free agent, the group of undrafted free agents. So those are some guys that I think they'll have some opportunities. I think probably the two guys I think have the toughest time, I think, will be Blake Jackson and, honestly, Josh Stewart. I think he's going to have a hard time.
It is funny that you bring up Blake Jackson, just because when I did my homework before we came on, I'm familiar with all these guys from our discussions, plus from watching Oklahoma State play a couple times a year, plus scanning all conference teams. You mentioned Parker Graham, Calvin Barnett. They've made their appearances on all conference teams. You can't ignore Josh Stewart, especially what he did 2 years ago. And I see this Blake Jackson at tight end. I'm like, who is this kid? So I looked him up, and then I saw where he impressed a lot of scouts in community college in Scottsdale, Arizona. Then he makes his way to Oklahoma State. Put up some numbers for you, maybe like 12 catches 2 years ago, and then I don't know that he even saw the stat sheet last year.
Right. No, last season, his claim to fame last season was that he had a tremendous catch, short TD pass from Walsh against Lamar, where he made this right before halftime, I think it was. He made this diving one-handed catch. It was incredible against Lamar. And that was it. That was like the only thing you saw of him. And what people remembered from 2 years ago were the drops in the Baylor game that could have turned that game around. So, I'm that one puzzles me a little bit. If he doesn't make it, I won't be shocked. Josh Stewart's going to have to find the right fit, I think, for his skill set.
All right. Well, Blake Jackson and for some of these other guys, their agents are doing a yeoman's work to find them an NFL training camp. Robert Whetsell of Cowboys Ride for free on the Oklahoma State platform on SB Nation. We go to Robert every time we need to talk about Oklahoma State football, and he always delivers. So a couple times maybe during the summer, we'll prep for the season and get ready for that Big 12 schedule and Florida State in the opener, Robert.
I know, that's going to be tough. One quick thing I wanted to mention. I was really surprised. OSU, there were a couple of players for Oklahoma State that I was really surprised did not sign in the free agent area. Linebacker, all Big 12 linebacker, Sean Lewis, 4-year starter, tremendous player, good range on the field. Something happened there, maybe didn't impress, in any workouts. I'd be really surprised if he doesn't find a home, work his way into a lineup somewhere, because guy works too hard. I was really shocked he didn't get signed. The wide receiver, Tracy Moore. Guy's got some good hands, decent enough speed. I would see him getting picked up in more of a role like Blake Jackson got picked up, because he's a big enough guy. He's got some size and good hands, good ball skills. So the two guys I was surprised didn't get signed. I think they're going to show up someplace. I think they will.
Okay, Robert, we appreciate you taking out some time on a Sunday afternoon to join us.
No problem. It's off to the Mother's Day, song and dance now.
That's right. That's what you have to do. All right, Robert, appreciate it. We will talk to you soon.
Thanks again, Mark.